So this is basically a talk which is concentrating on 27 gauge vitrectomy. I've been using it now for about 3 years, and probably 90% of my cases in vitreoretinal surgery are done with this gauge. So just a little story, how did I start with this? And that's how you should start. It's a beautiful technology, it works, it's very efficient, but you need to start obviously slowly. So get yourself simple cases to start with. Make sure that you have the company rep in theater with you when you're using this technology, because there are little bits and pieces that you're not aware of, and it's not the same as 23 or 20 or 25 gauge. Make sure that your staff is ready and that you are familiar with the machine. The last thing you want is not knowing what's happening and everything going chaotic. So I started basically with vitreous hemorrhage, easy peasy, you know, cases. And these are PVD-related vitreous hemorrhages that, again, you remove the vitreous, sometimes you get breaks in the retina, in 40% of the cases, sometimes in the majority you don't. But it's an easy case to start with and see how the machine works. As Hani mentioned, you need to adjust also, depending on what surgery you're doing, where to put the trocars. But he mentioned that, so I'm not going to go through that. So my findings on the first case is that the cutter was excellent, and this is basically relevant only to the DORC machine, and I'm not representing DORC at the moment, but they have a dual cut, so it cuts in up and down positions, and it keeps the port open all the time. So this makes this machine at 27 gauge very efficient as probably 23 and 25 gauge. It has excellent aspiration. It wasn't slow as I thought. I was going to be there for ages. And I had a little bit of disappointment when I used it in long eyes, because the vitrector wasn't, or the instruments are not long enough, and they're slightly bendy, and you need to adjust and make sure that you know how to deal with that. So you move your arms when you're using 27 gauge, not the instruments to manipulate the eye. You are manipulating yourself around the instruments. This is to show you just a quick video on how efficient is a 27 gauge. So on the right-hand side, as you look at it, left-hand side, it's the normal 27 gauge, and on the other side is the TDC cutter. And look at how efficient it is at dragging and aspirating the vitreous. It's much quicker, much cleaner, because again, it's cutting in both movements, and it's aspiration is more efficient. So then I progressed to macular holes and epiretinal membranes, and one of the things is that, well, to initiate the internal limiting membrane peel, or to lift the epiretinal membrane, I usually use a Thanos scraper. I struggle a little bit because I had to get used to the 27 gauge forceps, and believe me that they are bendy, and when you're in there and trying to pick up the membrane, sometimes the flow of the fluid going in the eye wobbles the instrument because they're a bit bendy, but you get used to that. And then I found from Alcon that they designed this nice sneer, which is a serrated loop, and it's beautiful on lifting ILMs and ERMs. And they do a 27 gauge instrument to deal with this. So retinal detachments, then I went with the simple cases, then I went into retinal detachment surgery, which again, they can be complex, as I'm sure you all know, and some are straightforward and some are not. And some straightforward cases of retinal detachments become a little bit tricky as well. So I found again that the cutting was very efficient, and because of the shave mode, there is a shave mode which is using peristaltic and venturi combination, and basically it's so efficient because again, it doesn't move the retina. It cuts very efficiently, but the traction on the retina is very, very gentle, which again makes life very easy when you're dealing with detachment. So shave mode in this machine with a 27 gauge was very efficient, but again, the instruments were bendy, and as I said, just you need to get used to it. Then I got into diabetic cases. 27 gauge is beautiful in diabetic cases because you can go in, you don't need scissors, you can delam, you can segment, it's a very fine instrument, and you can get into a lot of places with it. So that's one of the other great, and you're causing little amount of manipulation as well. So and traction with the shave mode. So it's an excellent machine and an excellent setting or setup to do the diabetic vitrectomies. And then I went into trauma, which are the most complex cases basically, and I'll show you a video very shortly about it. So I use 27 gauge now after 3 years. Probably 90% of my cases are done 27 gauge, and the 10% is because my fellows don't feel confident in using 27 gauge. So that's the other bulk. 20% are done probably by fellows using 25 or 23, but they all get trained with 27. And it's just to remind you that's an excellent alternative. I can see the flashing light, so I just want to show you a couple of, just 3 videos. This is a macular hole operation, basically. When you're using 27 gauge, the infusion line is small, so you don't want to put an even smaller infusion, so you don't put a cannula in the trocar. You just take the valve of the trocar and you put the irrigation port directly on it. And this is very important because this is what makes the irrigation very efficient. So you can see that you still have bulky site to be able to irrigate the eye from. So can you advance a little bit the video, please? Can you just advance, I don't know, 30, 40 seconds? Boys, thank you. So this is just, again, inside the eye. It's just showing you how this is injecting vision blue. I think I'll pass on. This is it's not going to show you anything different from the normal macular hole surgery with other gauges. But it is very efficient in these cases, and this is where all people think that this is the only scenario that you can use it in. But look at this ocular trauma setup. Can we start the video, please? One of the nice things in trauma is that you can use it transcorneal. For example, this eye, I don't know what's happening at the back of the eye. I don't know if the retina is attached. If not, yeah, I have a little bit of ultrasound information, but I don't know exactly what's happening. But video is not working. The nicest video, the most exciting video is not going to work. If you just go forward again. Yeah, just press the play. Beautiful. Okay, it's not working. I'm really sorry about that. It was great, this video. But one of the things in trauma is that you can go transcorneal. So you can put yourself an irrigation through the cornea and then go transcorneal with your instruments instead of going through pars plana, and you don't know what you're going to encounter at the back. This case, basically, when we cleared all the vitreous, all the anterior segment hemorrhage, we found that there was a big 360 detachment with PVR. We flattened everything, and one of the other things I wanted to show in this video is how efficient and how nice it is to use oil with 27 gauge. You might take 3.5, 4 minutes more than 25 or 23, yeah? But come on, you've been in the eye for about 2 hours trying to handle it. 3 minutes is not going to cause, although, well, sometimes we do get a little bit impatient. And then this is just to show you that even dropped nucleus is very well feasible with 27 gauge. So this is a case where the nucleus is dropped. Can we advance a little bit, please? This is the last video. Okay. But I just want to show you how efficient is at eating 27 gauges at eating the nucleus. Can we advance a little bit more so we get to the nucleus? That's it. So look at the nucleus there, dropped at the back of the eye. And come on, let's get with the vitrector in. So now I'm just taking the soft lens matter that's all around. And now you can see that I'll start approaching the nucleus itself. And you fragment it with your light pipe and the 27 gauge vitrector. And then what you need to do is feed and chop and mash. This is how I call it, feed and mash. So you pick up a fragment, you feed it and mash it. And because the port is opened all the time and cutting in both ways, the efficiency is great. And you end up being able to remove, and this is nucleosclerosis 2 plus almost 3, okay? So don't fool yourselves on that 27 gauge will not perform well in these type of cases. And I think that these are all the videos, and I'm sure I couldn't show the trauma video, which was great, but thank you very much for your attention.
Next.